So I got a message the other day from someone asking if their girlfriend got an ultrasound scan and they got a due date from it, would it be possible to figure out exactly when they conceived because they think that their partner is cheating on them? So that in itself, I'm like, okay, ultrasound is still not an exact science. It is still just an estimated due date that we are calculating. And then you can potentially put in that estimated due date into a conception calculator that you can just find on Google. And then it'll give you an estimated date of conception as well as the most likely dates that you conceived based on when you would have had sexual intercourse. But the funny thing is, this is not the first time that I have gotten a message like this. In fact, over the last couple of weeks, I want to say, maybe last month, I've gotten like 4 or 5 messages from people asking me this and basically stating the same scenario, which, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's the time of year. Who knows? People are suspicious, apparently, of their spouse cheating on them. But, anyways, it is really important to note. And if you are someone who is watching this and you are also questioning, I guess, if your spouse is cheating on you and therefore you are trying to figure out when sexual intercourse happened and if it is actually your baby, just know it is really hard to tell, even if you guys are each other's only partners and you are having timed intercourse. It is super hard to tell exactly when you would have conceived. So, this is because sperm can live in the body, as in a woman's body, for 3 to 5 days after sexual intercourse. And it's also important to note that even if a woman has a very regular cycle and usually does ovulate on day 14, it is not always the case. So, usually conception happens anywhere between day 11 to 21 of a woman's cycle. And just because she has regular cycles does not mean that she's going to always ovulate on day 14. There will be a discrepancy potentially in there, even if the cycles are regular. And we can actually ovulate at any point during our cycle. So, taking all of that into account, if you had intercourse 5 days leading up to ovulation, as well as a day or two after ovulation, this could all result in a pregnancy. That is a huge window of opportunity potentially. So even if you did know exactly when your partner ovulated, there is still about 7 days in which intercourse could have happened, and therefore fertilization of the egg could have occurred, and then pregnancy. So the takeaway from this video is it is very difficult to predict exactly when you had conceived. And not to mention, sometimes fertilization as well as actual implantation doesn't always happen in the amount of time that is expected. So then you can also be a day or two off there. So although ultrasound is the most accurate way to determine a due date, and you can go ahead and plug in that due date into a potential conception calculator online and then figure out about when intercourse happened to conceive the pregnancy, don't rely on it, please. So I guess at the end of the day, if you are suspecting that your partner is cheating on you and that baby might not be yours, maybe figure out a different way to try and prove that other than work backwards from the ultrasound due date or the first day of her last period to figure out when intercourse would have happened. Usually that is really not a reliable way to do it unless, of course, you were totally gone in that month and you can figure it out that way. But if you were around during the time that potential conception happened and you guys did have intercourse, then it is very difficult to tell as to whether or not that was yours or someone else's. And the only way would be after baby is born to get a DNA test. But I do urge you guys to talk to your partners openly if you are thinking that this is the case. Or I guess just do some sneaky investigation. I don't know. But again, because there's such a big window in which conception could have happened and sexual intercourse could have occurred, it is not a great way to figure out whether or not your partner was cheating on you and if that baby is yours. The only accurate way that conception could be figured out, or the exact date of conception, I guess, is if you are using IVF methods or any sort of other fertility assisted methods. But those are special cases, and I highly doubt that anyone who messaged me about this was in that situation.